We're going to do an open channel today. I am challenging myself to try different things with practicing my gifts. And so we're going to do an open channel, just messages. I did some channeled notes this morning, so I wanted to share those because they were really exciting. It was all about the creational creative and having a better understanding of what source, creator, and God is. We're transcending, kind of all of our old paradigms and ideologies about God and what that means to us. So it's really good every day when you're doing your ascension work and kind of making this new version of you, this kind of snowballing light effect of you, which is kind of what we talked about in our last video about, that ever pull of the great light that's pulling you forward, like follow the light. When you're following that light, you get to kind of harmonize new aspects of you. So we're going to just call in all of the energies and all the beings. There's some little fairy energies that want to come out and play. And so we're just going to have fun. I've gone through a whole new aspect of kind of reset. And so I'm in a new, I'll explain it just really quickly. It's a new version of my oversoul that was activated. So when you're going through those really big DNA activations and those activations of more of your soul self, you get to harmonize the louder parts of you that are with source. And so all aspects of you aren't necessarily harmonized with source, as it depends on what frequency they're in, what kind of game they wanted to play. And so sometimes there's aspects and fragments and soul aspects of you that are on lower vibrational rungs, if you will. And so as you're snowballing, the lower vibrational aspects of you, you're pulling them up, and the higher vibrational aspects are pulling you up. So it's kind of like that snowball of all that you are, of all that you've been, and all that is your oversoul and all that it has been, and then just harmonizing into a new aspect of attunement. So every time we go through a new ascension cycle, a new ascension phase, and everybody is different, that's why I always say, know what your ascension cycle is, so that you can know what phase you're kind of on. Are you an ingathering, letting go, releasing, exploring, focusing on your expression? Expression is really important. Expression keeps you balanced. So the more light that you're taking in, the more the light that's coming in, that snowball, the capacity that you're able to hold, it's going to mean that you're going to have to express a lot more. And that expression can mean an infinite number of things. As we're moving into 5D, we're going to find more and more fun ways to play, more and more fun ways to be of higher expression. And it's not going to look like 3D, right? Of course, there'll be some 3D adaptations, but we're going to be expressing ourselves in higher vibrational ways because we're going to be of higher vibrational light. And that ingathering is just going to keep culminating more and more aspects of who we are. More and more aspects of who we are, more and more aspects of who we are. And that becomes the toroidal. That's when you have those really, really cool meditations where you're really connecting with your overself. Hello, birdies. And you can feel that toroidal spin. I explain that, I think, in my book number 1. And that toroidal spin is how you are within your own Merkaba. And so when you're practicing your alignment of your higher self and your soul, calling in all your soul fragments and just commanding that loving harmonization is going to be more and more readily felt. Because if you're not in balance and you're not in harmony, you're going to feel really scattered, because aspects of your soul fragments, the soul fragments on the other kind of goes as like a creational snowball. The source creator is always renewing itself, and I'm going to talk about that in my channeled notes. Source creator is always renewing itself. It's always creating that snowball of culmination of source within source. So every rung of ascension, there's soul fragments that everybody is gathering in and of itself. Ascension is going to keep going. We're moving through the galaxy. We're moving through this new bedding of space. And as we're moving as a planetary magnetic, we are each offered our own magnetic in-pulling, in-gathering of who we've been, those soul fragments. And there's always going to be soul aspects that we're here to harmonize. We've just gone through a really tough aspect of space, if you will, that galactic space, which there were very dense fragments, soul fragments of many of the darker timelines through Orion. And so those fragments are really harder to harmonize. Just because you have to have that, how they're showing me is that you have to have the louder voice of the lower vibrational aspects. And that's why knowing yourself is so important. Know thyself. That's why it's taught right from the get-go. That's why the ascension path is so important. This goes in and of itself with the confusion that you will see those that haven't been balanced, that haven't been doing their daily, work, their ascension path work. you'll see them feel a lot more scattered and a lot harder to ground, because if you do not have a louder sense of self, remember that now impression that we've talked about? We talk about it in our class, how to maintain a really strong now impression. That now impression has to be very, very strong, because we're going to be moving quicker and quicker into this faster oscillating space, if you will. We say it's space, I mean, it's just an illusion. It is the oscillating vibration energy of 5D. So that means it's a faster, quickening pace. So those soul fragments are going to want to join you, but those soul fragments are denser, right? So your soul fragments that you're integrating, you have to be that louder voice every new ascension cycle, which means that who are you, what do you exist within, what exists within you, and doing your daily ascension path work, renewing yourself and what your intentions, your directions, and your focuses are, 3 E's, 3 A's, and all the things that we practice is going to be really important, because that now impression of you is that stronger magnetic pull, that voice of that soul that you're becoming is what calls in and kind of in, what did you call it, source? Folding in on itself. Infolding? Is that a word? Yeah, so source is just showing me in the toroidal of the bigger, grander source through this galactic phase, if you will. We're going through a new phase because we're heading into the spring equinox. And so it's gathering a higher, faster magnetic pull. So that higher, faster magnetic pull means that there's denser fragments of you and your soul's experience that need to be harmonized, right? So this ascension cycle means that your now impression, that now voice of you, has to be stronger to pull up those denser fragments, because those denser fragments are feeling really scattered and they need your commandmentship of your soul self. That's why it's really important, as we said in our last video, to practice grounding, knowing what it feels like to be balanced. And the quickest way to know what it feels like to be balanced is to do breath work. And I'm going to explain why that's really important, because we're getting more technical and we're getting more scientific. And so if you remembered our last video about the ingathering of follow the light, because the magnetic is getting stronger, the magnetic is getting more profound, and you're going to see more and more people at the denser rate that are no longer going to be able to keep up with that pace of pull. So they're going to be following into their own infold. And what that infold means, as we discussed, is different depending on what perspective. They could see it as a death, and you could experience that a death, but it could be something different to each. So just know that. Hello to everybody that's joining us, and we're calling upon our highest benevolent audience. We're calling in higher vibrational audiences to tap in with our ascension path today. So every time that you tap in, you're coming in with your guides and your celestials. So just know that. And we're also going to do open channels today, just practicing mediumship. So whatever messages, I'm at a more refined essence of attunement. So it's whatever those energies are that I'm tapping into. So I'm not going to direct it. I'm playing with spirit on how I can call forward different energies. So whatever comes forward will come forward. They're going to be open messages. So whatever your intentions is, whatever the teams that you come with, whatever the connections you want with your multiverse, with Source Creator, with the whole universe, the multiverse. So if you just intend that and just open up your heart space, we'll call in whatever messages are for those, whether they're passed, we say passed on. Again, it's just the ingathering of energy, right? Source energy is all source energy all throughout the multiverse. So sometimes I'll get energies or celestials or aliens, depending on where you're from, like a main from as far as your consciousness level. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. So we were just talking about this new magnetic pull. The new magnetic is light, and it's going to be faster and faster and lighter. And so what you want to do in your new ascension path work is that we talk about all the time is just practicing what that new connection means for you. And I felt a difference this morning. The connection that I had with spirit this morning is, well, they said it's a lot more clear and a lot more sure. Just saying like louder voice, like the louder voice, because there's a new oversoul that's connected itself. So that oversoul is culminating in a cycle with you. So it's going to be a more powerful voice, if you will. And so it's not going to be muddled or not sure. You're going to be very, very sure. So just know that when you're connecting at a higher rate, that voice is very sure and quick. They presented themselves to me this morning a little bit differently. They said, we are your, what did you say? Thank you, Holy Spirit. They said, we are your collective of source creator. And I said, well, why did you say it that way? And so they were offering me that because I'm a more integrated version of me, there are more aspects of the integration of me that is source creator. So this is what I said when we first started, transcending what we thought God to be. God is one being, and then we all return to that one being. That's not really true, because source creator is all breath, it's all essence, right? It's the trees, it's the ocean, and you have infinite soul fragments. You have dense soul fragments, you have soul fragments on every vibrational thread. So as you're moving through these new quantum cycles of light and quantum cycles, it's really a song. You know, God sends harmonics into every dimensional thread. Every dimensional thread has unique bandwidths that you're able to play within. So the more that you're integrating who you are, the more capacity and mass that you have, as we said last time, that you have to play within, and then the aptitude is reaching higher for infinite potentials. And so I said this morning, as I was gathering all of my soul fragments and all of my source essence, they offered themselves as my collective of source creator. My collective of source creator is equal to the exact amount that I've integrated. That's what that means. And then of course you'll always have the higher source, the most purest, rarest force, if you call that highest source God. But God is not a one being. The source creator is the culminating essence of all that is now moments. So source creator has the higher now impression, if you will, because that higher source creator is constantly pulling in that louder voice, because there are so many scattered energies on earth, because they're not awakened. Right? When you're awakened, you start to begin to culminate within you. It's the inner and outer, as above, so below. There is that refinement of pull, and you are now organizing yourself. You're now commanding yourself in a higher vibrational way. So source creator, obviously, although the entire universe has a very strong magnetic voice, because source knows what source is doing. So if there is something that is out of scatteredness too much in a vibrational experience, because remember, there's always a median. And because we're a newly awakened planet, there's a lot of elasticity. There's a lot of play within that medium. There has to be, because there's some people that are highly awakened, and there's some people that are just beginning to awaken. There's some people that are all scattered all over the place, because they're in a very dark negative shadow. They're finding it hard. There's not a lot of conversation and teachings besides my channel and a few other channels that talk about how to reculminate and reorganize yourself as a soul. So that's what we're really learning. We're learning how to organize ourselves as a soul as we're accelerating faster. So your source creator part of you, the God part of you, consists of many, many soul fragments. And as you become more accelerated in your practice, you're going to be moving into higher vibrational, sure vibrations of source. And you'll feel them. They feel very, that, wow, this is a new part of me I've never felt before. And it makes you feel more sure. That's why it's really important to do your daily work, so that you're harmonizing in those new versions of you. You're very clear about who you are. You're very sure about your essence. And then it's just a matter of really flowing and playing in that flow of that accelerating source essence. So the one thing that we wanted to say, because I felt a big difference this morning when they were saying we are your version of source creator, your collective, because there's a collective of me, right? There's a collective of all aspects of me in every way that my soul was excited to experience itself on any thread. There's aspects of me, and I'm aspect of source. And so those aspects are now harmonizing, and I'm now seeing, because the veils are lifting, more refined. It's like a party that never goes away. They're like always there, always turned on, always hear you. And so I was asking them to bring more information forward, because I was enjoying this version of source, version of God, that it was new to me. It wasn't like God separate from me, that I'd always had that experience and embodiment with, because I was very connected with source. But now source is saying, no, they're all actually you. Those energies that you feel of great such love as you, they're aspects of you. So source was kind of like giving the stage to all the soul fragments of me. And that was really, really sweet and lovely, because I'd never experienced source that way. I mean, I knew it, metaphysically, and I understand it logically. But as you're experiencing yourself as a new soul, a new version of your soul, when you have that oversoul experience, you really do feel source kind of allowing the children to take the stage. That's how it felt. This new soul version of myself, to participate as a soul, to be in connection and relationship as a soul. And it's very, very full. It's very robust. It's very playful, and it's very loving, and it's very fun, and it's very creative, and all of those beautiful words, because we're now operating at a higher version of me. All of those soul fragments that were dense, I've done the work in harmonizing it, and calling in those slower soul fragments, those integrated parts that didn't really want to be integrated because they were such fear. And then just talking and speaking and experiencing myself as a higher version. So I'm now seeing myself as a leader guide to all of the other soul fragments. And this is how you see yourself step up into a guide role, a leadership role. And it's very similar. So source is showing the inner as outer, as above, so below. Source is not, I challenge you over the next little while, because these energies are going to quicken because we're in the spring equinox. Feel yourself into the harmonization of source being your collective of source. So sit with that vibrational verbiage and see how that feels. Release what you know God to be, because God has been so imprinted at all of our religions, and all of us have come forward in many bodies, many timelines, experiencing many different religions. So I remember the Arcturian saying to me a long, long time ago, let go of the, thank you, Holy Spirit. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Thank you, Holy Spirit. I don't know if you guys saw that little energy. God was, the Arcturians are saying, let go of that word God, because it holds a lot of karmic weight to a lot of people in their Akashic records. And there's a lot of traumas, religious traumas. So however it feels for you, if you still feel the resistance to the word God, you can let that go and just play with that, right? Accept it and acknowledge it, and know that it's connected with timelines, that there were traumas. There was a lot of discrimination. There was a lot of how we practice God to be, and that was never the intention. That was a human thing. So we can see ourselves transcending all of those experiences. And also another thing that came up this morning too was, I was in my creative writing process this morning, and I was coming up with these ideas about what are the imprints of divine feminine in the collective field, and what stories can we each start transmuting and start transforming as a part of what does it feel like to be natural beauty. As we talked about this, I have a post way back when, like many years ago, about what does it mean to be rich in beauty, rich in spirit, what is natural beauty, and start playing with those vibrations, start playing with those aspects of yourself. And what are your perspectives of that culminating source essence, especially those that have been in my classes, and those of you that are my clients. There's so many beautiful goddesses that I've taught, and I've been a part of these beautiful co-creations over those so many years. As being a divine feminine, even if you're in a male body, because you still have to heal that divine goddess energy in you. You still have to heal your divine feminine energies within you. But just muse, and over the next little while, because it is spring, and spring and summer are the divine feminine energies, is just start feeling into new collective social magnetic imprints that we can start bathing into our collective. Start thinking of new, robust, loving, honoring perspectives of what natural beauty looks like to us, and start really feeding into the collective omnipresent energies and statements and affirmations of what natural beauty for divine feminine looks like and feels like. There are some negative imprints in our collective about body image and body dysmorphia, transgender operations and things like that, getting cosmetic surgery. All of those things, they're very, very heavy imprints because of how we have been viewed, how divine feminine have been viewed, and what the ideal perspective of beauty is. It's getting much better now. I remember when I was in high school, it was really overblown, because back when I was in high school and college, a lot of the girls and our focuses was on Cosmo magazine and all of those magazines that were showing us the ideal beauty, if you will, because we had never grown up with what goddess energy was, what is natural beauty. We're never taught these things. And especially in our childhood, most of our parents were not balanced. They were not, they were certainly not healed. They weren't holding themselves high. They weren't holding their divine masculine feminine energies in power and in love. or in harmony. So most of us were brought up in very dysfunctional, toxic environments of what the divine feminine energy looks like. We are now stepping into 5D integration. And so that means that we have a lot of free play on really rewriting that divine feminine goddess. What is that natural beauty? What does that look like to us? And each and every person is going to have their own unique metamorphosis and their own, again, it's all about amalgamating all aspects of your soul. It's okay, and don't judge yourself for what you thought beauty was a year ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago, because you might have been in a very superficial environment where there was a lot of projections about what you were, what was ideal, and who makes up that anyways, right? So we're really letting go a lot of the collective superficialities, and you're going to see it. You'll be released from it really quickly. Like I've even felt it's been so much lighter. And this light energy means that we've done so much transmuting, especially for divine feminine. But what does that mean now? What does natural beauty look like to each and every one of us? What does it look like to be attracted to our own inner natural beauty? So do some work, do some inner work with that, and amalgamating all of those aspects of what you thought yourself in childhood and teenage and youth and younger womanhood and all of those energies. And what does natural beauty look like to you now? And really feel into the energy of that. Feel into the energy of natural beauty. Feel into the energy of, you know, plastic surgery and all of those things. And we even call it plastic, right? Cosmetic surgery. And allow yourself to feel open, not judgmental, but open into the exploration, because that's all God, right? The 3 E's. And source creator is all aspects. Remember, you have aspects of you, because we're one and all, we're all the same. There's aspects of you that did choose to get artificial plastic surgery, whatever you want to call it. Enhancements, it doesn't matter what words we use, it is the adjustments of yourself. It's the adjustments of what you came as a soul, as a body, as spirit matter. So how do you feel about those aspects, and can you let go of judgment and harmonize and integrate that and just have a loving, open expression of what natural beauty is to you? You can have an expression of what you explored then, but it can be something, a higher vibrational soul value now, and have that integrated into higher vibrational ways for yourself, because that's what we want to do. We want to level up divine feminine. What does natural beauty look like to each of us? For me, it's all about the richness of the soul, to live, as I said earlier, as this amalgamated aspect of soul. And even my team's coming forward with that new statement was something new to me. So that's rich in spirit. I'm growing, right? That amalgamation of me is growing. I'm becoming more full and more accepting in myself of these aspects that I'm having to maintain a higher now impression. And now it is a more beautified experience of me, because if I didn't feel more beautiful inside myself, of all of these soul fragments I have to integrate, I wouldn't be able to have that essence of now impression, because the more sure you are in love with you are with yourself, your now impression is just natural, right? That's why knowing yourself is so important, and why you have to practice it, because nobody's taught us these things. So it's very natural. It's a natural process of minutia. Your minutia with you, your minutia with God. And that essence of God is all the aspects of you as source creator. Source is your creative exploration of you. You have aspects that would never want, you know, cosmetic surgery. There's aspects of you that wanted to explore that. There's aspects of you. This is why we can let go of the judgment and the discrimination we have in the collective about whatever we feel is natural good, whatever we've judged it in the past, and just let go of it and be more accepting of who you are in all aspects of you, because they're you. And so this is where we can become more softer and more loving with ourselves. And so in that, I did do this channel one time with the Pleiades, and they did say, we were talking about gender transformation, and those that choose at a soul level. And it's a very complex and it's a very exciting arena to discuss. And there's going to be many transgenders that will be not only transgender in their exploration and creativity and expansion of who they are, but to have ascension, ascending transgender beings that will discuss their experience, right? And so I'm empowering many of you to discuss, if you're a transgender and all of those experiences, to really allow yourself to as a being and come forward, because it's needed. Just like men, it's needed for the divine masculine to come forward in their soul's expression of healing through their soul's exploration of ascension, what that means for them. Because you are beautifying your soul. You are becoming that natural essence of beauty when you're accepting yourself, as all that you are. And so allowing yourself to be that essence of of beauty. Allow yourself to be that essence of accepting yourself in all phases. Claim who you are in all phases. Don't judge yourself for wherever you're at. Just love yourself and honor it and call it in to be accepted and integrated. From here on out, it's all about integration. Everything that is before you is an aspect of you. And so just allow yourself to be an aspect of loving grace and loving culmination of excitement for who you are. And know that natural beauty is all about the richness of acceptance you are as a soul. So if you're accepting all that you are and loving all that you are, then that natural beauty is just going to be that soul vibration. And that's what really emanates and radiates to the all. As Jesus says, you're going to be known by your vibration. You're going to be known by your light because you're accepting all the aspects of you. As you're transmuting, that transmutation is light. And no, I was never on Teen Mom. I had kids when I was in my 30s. And so it's good to keep in mind and just create new imprints of what divine feminine beauty means for you, the natural beauty of what it means for you. Give yourself permission to play and be exploratory in your play of what beauty is. We really want to inspire and empower everybody on earth to begin really feeling the fun and the love and the joy of being divine feminine. Allow your energies to flow as you're harmonizing different soul fragments. You're going to have soul fragments because it's just ascension. Very controlling, very harsh, very dogmatic, very staunch, very rigid. All of those energies on that side of the infinity. Remember the negative and the positive and the neutral? All of those very harsh, staunch, very immovable energies that everybody has to integrate, because that's why you attract those people in your life, because they're your trigger, they're your catalyst. They don't want you to grow. They don't want you to be expansive. They don't want you to be creative. So all of those aspects are more of the old school, old world, divine masculine power over, dominance over. So you have to use that equal feminine energy to soften those energies. So whether you're a man or not, doesn't matter what body you're in, you're going to have to use those maneuvering energies as you're calling in those various infinite soul fragments, soul aspects. And so as Source was showing me this morning, which was new for me and I wanted to share, I was so excited because I love it when Source Creator gives me new perspectives, because I want humanity and I want to inspire humanity to be more than we were yesterday about our experience and expectations of what God is, because it's created so much drama, wars, violence about our experience and our our definitions of God, really. And it's just Source Creator. Source is all that is life. Source is breath. And we're always culminating ourselves more and more into this new amalgamation. So just think of Source Creator as an amalgamation. Source Creator is always growing as we are. We are becoming more and more Source Creator. We're amalgamating more as Source Creator. Every day we're becoming more and more Source Creator. And it's a beautiful, loving song that's just like this rolling ball of Source that we just keep moving with Source into new galactic cosmic space. Now, if we think about the galaxy, the micro macro, our planet is being magnetized to a new section of galactic space, if you will, because the magnetics are getting stronger. Because why? Because as we're lightening, if you will, in our consciousness and our collective in our consciousness, and our planet is becoming lighter because we're micro macro, we're all one. That means that the magnetic pull into where our bedding is galactically is going to become stronger. It's a stronger pull. It's stronger magnetic because we're becoming more and more refined. As Source was telling me earlier, because I was saying, I know this voice that I'm channeling with you is different than it was 5 days ago, because there was more static, if you will. I say static in the means of a radio. You know, when you're tuning the radio and you have those in-between stations, that's static because it's not on the station. So when you're connecting with your collective of Source Creator through your higher self, because that higher self aligns you to the station. This is why I always say, I don't always say that. This is why I've suggested, you know, your higher self is your direct link. It's your direct radio tuner to your collective of Source Creator. Your collective of Source Creator is different than my collective, all one. Because you might have a collective of Source Creator that is on a lower thread, if you will, vibrationally, because you haven't integrated enough, as much as I have. They told me that I've integrated about 752 soul fragments. So the collective that was speaking to me this morning was 752 aspects of me. And so they told me that a long time ago that I had operating on about 882 different timelines. So the variance between 882, these are just rough numbers. I'm just giving these to you as examples. 882 timelines and 752 soul fragments, there's still some soul fragments that I want to kind of connect with. And then they said that there's other soul fragments that are just so minute that they just culminate into source creator. So not all of those soul fragments you have to meet, if you will, like say hi to. because the magnetic of source is so strong, and because my light is so strong, all of those soul fragments will just get harmonized into the whole of me, the whole of God. And there's also, we just wanted to clear it up. I don't know if anybody cares, but I do. When we're talking about source cleared, 51%, 51% of all the 3D to 5D timelines. Because once you get into 5D, you've had your karma already cleared, but that is still culminating. We're still culminating and growing in the magnetic of source creator. Because there's always going to be that toroidal, whatever is taken out as lower programs, and we're always culminating this bigger ball of culminating source. It's just going to be at a faster, refined rate, and you're going to have more purified connection with all that you are, a source, with all that is energy. So it's going to be a more rarefied, and why we've been practicing so much on refinement of your communication skills, your interpreting, processing light, interpreting light, all of those things that is capacity and aptitude. And why it's going to become more and more evident and more prominent for us to continue doing so, because we're going to become more and more amalgamated aspects. And why that now impression is so important, because that now impression, again, is like your higher self. It's guiding you to all of the other aspects that need help being called in, because they're so erratic, right? They're like, like little crazy children that just had way too much sugar and they're all over the place. You have to call in those soul fragments, because there's a lot of fear and scattered energy. Just like turning the station, you've got to call that tune in. You got to call those notes of song in. It's all harmonics, so it's all vibration. So this is what they gave me this morning. So we're just going to play and just have really creative fun time. But we wanted to offer those few little notes of vibration there about what is natural beauty, because we want to start creating new divine feminine energy imprints for the collective, for 5D. So what are 5D role models? Practice being a 5D role model. Practice being a divine feminine 5D role model. What does that look like to you? And for me, the most important is relationship and connection, because that is our unified destiny, is connection, and to reunify all aspects of our soul fragments into the culminating source. Divine feminine will play a more prominent role in the coming years and in the coming months and the coming days, because our energies are just so into bringing the family back together, bringing the culminating aspects of the things that were left out and bringing them into the bosom, if you will. That is the mother's role. That is the mother's energy, vibration, and intention. So please, I implore everyone to play with those energies, about really calling our collective in and nourishing the collective. Just have 5 minutes a day, in the beginning of the day and the end of the day, to play with those energies of, bringing aspects of the creative collective in to be nourished and to be loved and to be accepted. Really soak within that beauty that is natural beauty of the mother. And really start putting greater imprints of love and unconditionality into the collective. We're now, because our consciousness is such a refined experience right now, we're having so much impact on our collective, each and every one of us. So 5 or 10 minutes, 3 times a day, of just putting really loving, unifying, sacred imprints into our collective energy, releasing, like, don't focus on the matrix, if you will, but just focus on this new earth 5D imprint that you're pouring love into. What does a divine feminine role model look like? What does a divine masculine role model look like? They look balanced, they look healed, they look integrated, they look harmonized, they look okay with all their soul fragments. They're not judging any parts of their fragments. They're okay to talk about the shadow. They're okay to talk about, their preferences. They're okay to explore these experiences safely and responsively. And all of these experiences where we're allowing ourselves to come out of the playground and say, well, okay, that wasn't so easy, but, at least we can talk about it now. It's not okay. It's not fun to face all of those really, dark parts of ourselves, but it's a part of our collective story. We can't ignore it. And it won't be fixed or healed, and it won't be resolved unless we face all of those aspects of who we have been and what we've allowed and what we've considered, normalized, when it was just really abuse and dysfunction. and we have to kind of put everything on the table, and we have to face it. But that is also too part and parcel to me, that's natural beauty, right? I've, in all of my videos, I've been very honest and transparent and forthright about, the not so fun parts. God takes me to really dark places in the multiverse, and I just radiate my light there because I know how to alchemize. I know it's just a part of being a conduit. When God places me somewhere, I have the ability to sense into interfacing, sense into the densities, sense into the core psyche wounding of any experience. That's a lot of the work that I do with the councils, is because God places me wherever on whatever timeline. My teams and my higher self know whatever timeline I'm going to be on. I just continue to sense and pour forward that now impression of what excites me. So that's my excitement. That's my harmonization. They place me on whatever timelines because there's light that's needed. There's information that's needed. There's codes that's needed. My light language, my singing, my tones, all of those things help those timelines. But I'm not meant to stay in any timeline for too long because it slows my vibration down, and there's a lot that I can touch on. So the more places, the more timelines I touch, those fragments and those soul energies get smoothed out. It's like at the radio station again. When I'm placed on timelines, it's God placing me to refine that tune, that vibration, that song, so that the dialing tone can be more easily accepted throughout the entire space. There are other beings and other aspects of space that are trying to tune into us. So me and my vibration touching those timelines helps smooth out those energies, because again, we're going through a multiverse ascension, a multiverse harmonization. So those of us that work with bandwidths, those of us that work with grids, those of us that work with aspects of space, we know what we're doing. We don't necessarily know what we're working on. We just do it naturally, right? Like if I go into a collective or into a business, I'll see and sense what's dense about it. I'll see what's being pulled back. It's like a big ball of darkness or mess, whether it's confusion, discrepancy, audit, whatever that might be, whatever that ball of mess is, it needs to be untangled. So that's what I do as a conduit. God places me wherever I need to be placed. I pinpoint where the density is, and then I break it up by bringing it forward and putting it on the table. I bring the underground and put it on the table. I state what is unseen sometimes because everybody's so normalized to it, but we need to look at it. We need to see it. We need to place it, and we need to come up with new beauty attributes of how this can be fixed, how it can be healed. How can we break up what was and start, putting all the pieces on the table and take what we need and then move on. So that's what conduits really do. We focus light into the dark parts, and then we see how did it get there psychically? Because remember, we're all psyche aspects of source. We're experiences of source. Right? Your soul fragments are all experiences of you. As we said earlier, you had soul experiences that wanted to experience having plastic surgery or having cosmetic surgery, whatever you want to call it, or gender transformation, whatever that experience is. That's why whatever we see out in our plane reality, those are just aspects of us we're meant to integrate and say, okay, what do I see as beauty? How can I see that as a beautiful experience? How can I see it as a beautiful perspective? Because it wants to be integrated. It wants to be accepted as whole. That's why it's showing itself to you. But now that we're at 5D, we want to have a now new impression so that we can see all as beautiful, all as integrative, all as harmonizing. It's very, that's what we really have to work on, is because all of us have been brought up on so much judgment. Our schools are great. We grade ourselves in schools. We grade so much competition, and that's jealousy and envy and greed and all of those superficial energies. And really taking yourself out of superficiality, which is the matrix, a lot of the matrix, not all of it. And then just really start building those self-loving, soulful loving experiences as wholeness, acceptance, and harmonizing all of your soul fragments as much as you can. And every day you just keep practicing it, because we want higher vibrational imprints of natural beauty going into the collective. And what does a 5D role model look like? Divine masculine and divine feminine. And then include the children in everything. Because as God does with us, right? Source Creator does with us. We're all aspects of Source Creator. There's no aspect of Source Creator that gets left out. Everybody will be amalgamating back to Source. It doesn't matter what their specific beliefs are. Every aspect is back at Source. There's dark aspects of Source that they call the lower realm. They're still Source. You know, Satan is still source. You know, whatever Jezebel spirits are, they're still source. They're just playing out different perspectives. And that's why when you accept it and acknowledge it and you call it in to be integrated, there's no fear and there's no, there's no games anymore, right? That's when the devil disengages, because there's no games. There's none of that push and pull and engaging and feeding off your energy. There's nothing more to engage with. You've accepted it, you've acknowledged it, now you can carry on. That's where you get the mastery of energy, right? And so we wanted to bring that forward as natural beauty, knowing that source creator. What does that mean for you? Releasing yourself from old ideologies and old karma pains and akashic pains, if you will, from the traumas that you've had of what God means to you. God is the amalgamation of all that is source, and so loving and so sweet. And I love having conversations with source and my source creator. It just makes me feel so, so at home and so accepted and so loved. And a lot of because I've come as a starseed, a lot of my DNA is celestial. So I have more of a celestial DNA. I mean, it's been, kind of a hard ride. And I feel more comfortable with my celestial energies around me. And I just call them, they're always with me. I don't have to call them in, It's just my natural part of being me with my celestial energies and my fairy energies. So thank you, Holy Spirit. So I'm just going to read the channel part that I had this morning, and then we'll go into an open channel. And so this is like this new version of this source energy and source essence that we wanted to talk about. So moving into the higher realms, the systems of light that operate in the heavens, and all of the systems are becoming a grand new making. The cosmic child that you are all returning to the remembrance of your own eternal life. And there's always choice within that eternal life. The places and the vibrations and the families and the songs of all that you are and the treasures of all that you are, that you left yourself along the way. Because remember, we talked about that before, and they're called touch points, vibrational touch points. Because there's the grander soul of you, the soul source amalgamation of you. That source amalgamation of you has been on all timelines, all realms, all experiences, and you've been on Earth hundreds of times. So you leave yourself vibrational touch points. And so that's what they were talking about, the treasures that you leave yourself along the way. That's your remembrance. So they're talking about creative remembrance of you being your creative source. That's how they opened this morning, was this is your new collective of creative source creator God. So I'll read that again. The places, the vibrations, the families, and the songs and the treasures that you left yourself along the way. We're talking about along the way of all of your sojourns, all of your journeys throughout all creation. Because you're from cosmic space, you're from alien space, you're from multiverse space, you're from galactic space, you're from all over the cosmos. So that's what they meant. The places, the vibrations, the families, and the songs, and the treasures that you left yourself along the way. And all of your eternal sojourns, which means journey, all of your external and your internal sojourns allow you to know that you are an amalgamation of source. There is always glad tidings along the way, and there is always ease in the flow as you arise in harmony of your own self. The remembrance of yourself, the remembrance of your bigger self and the smaller self. You knew that you would always return, and you knew that you would always remember. That is a source promise. Source promises you that you will always, at some point, remember who you are. That never goes away. No matter what your beliefs are, Source wants you to experience all, as much as you can, the vastness that you're able to experience and explore and really co-create with yourself. So there's always that golden source spark within you that never forgets your source. The source will always remind you. You're always going to go back to source. So that's really lovely. And you don't ever have to worry. Source never worries about you being lost. There's no such thing as being lost. So there is always glad tidings along the way. There is always ease and flow as you rise, and you rise into a new harmony of your own remembrance. You knew that you would always return, and you would always know that you can look back and see your growth, because you're always returning back to yourself. You're always returning back to yourself. Again, that now impression. And you can do that by knowing that you're integrating and not being fearful of anything to look at. Don't be afraid to look at anything that is you. And honor those aspects. We took that one example of plastic surgery, if you will, or cosmetic surgery, or whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. Have claim and ownership of all aspects of you, because that's beautiful. You want to claim all parts of your journey. There is always a cycle of you integrating you. That is the source, the micro-macro source, integrating source creator. Remembering that the song and the notes are only bits and pieces of your memories, places and stories that you've belonged to, songs that you belong to, and you were always meant to finish them. That's what I meant by touch points. The grander soul of you has left you touch points along the galactic journey, along your cosmic journey. And when you do awaken, it becomes a voracious, like when I remember when I first awoke, I still am like that now, because I'm so much more cosmic than I am human, if you will. It's a voracious experience just to keep searching and seeking those aspects of you. So that's what really gets me excited. And I want to share that excitement with humanity, because we've always seen ourselves so small and so separate, and we've created so much discrimination and judgment and violence. But really, when you awaken and you see yourself a part of this beautiful, beautiful cosmic soup and this beautiful richness of natural beauty that Source is, there's always acceptance, there's always remembrance, there's always coming back into self. So that's what they were just saying. It's really a lot. It's just really loving, and really, it's just a really good feel good. It's like, you know, a warm cup of soup, a hot cup of soup kind of feeling. It's like going home again. So again, there's always remembrance of the cycle of you integrating you. Remember of the notes and the songs and the bits and pieces of memories, the stories of you that you were always meant to finish, that you're always meant to find. The giving and the taking and the great song of love, the giving of great love and the taking of great love. Great love that is offered, always spiraling, knowing that there is never, ever lost love. There is never, ever any lost love, because love just keeps culminating into itself. So it's never really lost, because Source is all it is. Source never loses love, right? Source just keeps culminating new love. There is only remembering, and there is only the return of yourself with Source. You will always be Source. You have always been Source. You're just remembering to awaken to that which you are. You're awakening to the constant remembrance that you're amalgamating to Source every day. There's new soul aspects for you to call in, to harmonize. There's new aspects of yourself to accept, to explore. There's new aspects of yourself to remember as. There's new aspects of yourself to accept and allow. The 3 A's, the 3 E's, all of those are just your aspects of remembrance as Source. So that's really beautiful. I'll read that again. There is only remembering. That is the return, the source to Source, the micro-macro. You will always be Source. You have always been Source. That's so wonderful. And regardless of what is the now, so regardless of what your story is right now, whatever anything looks like right now, you're still remembering that aspect of you. So release the judgment of whatever appears to be now. There will be a moment where you're going to return back within and say, I'm okay with that. That return back to Source is your acceptance. So acceptance is Source Creator accepting you. Source would never not accept you, because Source is Source, right? It's our judgments and our beliefs that keep us from accepting where we've been and what we've done, and all of those experiences. Why your ascension path work is so important, right? Growth and self-love is through acceptance. You can't leave any parts of yourself out. It's like saying your toe doesn't belong, right? That's the grander picture of Source Creator. Source Creator is all aspects of life. The insects, the dogs, the Jews, the Israelis, that's all Source. It's all Source. Source wouldn't say, okay, the Israelis, you're not accepted. No, it's up to us to accept all aspects of us, because Source does. We've just defined everything to so minute experiences that everybody discriminates everybody. Everybody judges everybody. Everybody's in envy of everybody. Everybody's jealous of everybody. No, just accept it. Heal those wounds of jealousy and non-acceptance. That's no sense of self. The more no sense of self you have, you're looking to everybody to find out who you are, and it's not. It's within you. There is only the self-remembrance. You are an eternal child that is always precious. You are always honoring and knowing and devoting to the honor of exploration that Source gave you. Source gives you infinite, eternal lifetimes to explore who you are. But you'll always be brought back to Source. You're always Source. You're always the Creator. You're always exploring your creative experience. You're always exploring creative lifetimes. You will always come back into new experiences. You have infinite soul experiences. You cannot, it's easy to judge because that's what we've been brought up to do. That's our patterning, but we don't have to. You don't have to judge any part of your journey. Any part of your journey that you feel you haven't accepted, go back and review it again. That's what's called life review. Look at where you've been in every moment, and at the end of every day, do a life review. So I can accept that. I'm trying. I know that I'm getting closer to that unconditional self-love, because nobody's taught us how to self-love. The inner light and the inner remembrance that you're always Source. Source just keeps calling you into this greater pull, right? The greater pull of Source is pulling you in to accept who you are. Source is accepting you. Source has accepted everything that you've done. So call in all that you are as aspects of Source, right? So there's the sad bits and the lovely bits and the cherished bits and the expanding bits and the delighted bits. You're all aspects of God. There's aspects of your life where you're meant to be this emotional experience of exploring all that you are, all that you've ever been. When you're calling in a soul fragment, as I said earlier, there's going to be soul fragments that are really disheartening. There's going to be soul fragments that are really jealous and greedy or judgmental or ignorant or whatever those judgments are, and calling them in to say, okay, well, I can accept that as a part of source. And then you get to navigate around other aspects, but you're accepting it. You're accepting all aspects as source. And you still have say, that now impression, as to what you want to engage with, what you want your source experience to be. It's never on the Jerry Springer show. People have nothing better to do. So again, there's the sad bits, the lonely bits, the cherished bits, the delighted bits. So that's all source creator. Source creator doesn't judge itself for being sad one day or integrating a really harsh soul aspect. You have to go through that to integrate it. Remember, you've been the perpetrator and you've been the victim on every timeline. So that's why it's superfluous to kind of judge, because there's aspects of yourself that you have to see as, okay, that's source creator. Let it go and kind of move on, navigate around it. Just as the people in the chat, they're not always going to be your vibration, and just navigate around it. I wish there was just an easier way to manage the chat group, but oh well. So you're always returning to source and always knowing that there is a blessing in everything that is an aspect of source. So it's just a new way to see source. There are always unique signatures of love and light. There are always unique signatures of cosmic heartbeats and calling you back into yourself, calling you into the oneness that is the zephyr that you forgot. You forgot that you were a zephyr of the cosmos. You forgot that you were cosmic stardust. You forgot that you were a cosmic being from many planets, many realms. You hold many bodies. You hold many aspects of the highest realms, the angels, the angelic, the celestials, the federations. Many of you are millions of beings on the federations all over the galaxy doing many different missions. And many of you hold those bodies in those roles and in the higher dimensional realms. And so it's just a matter of aligning with your higher self and calling in those aspects of source creator, and just connect with that in a really fun and loving way. And God will always return to, every time at nighttime you're returning to your greater source, because then you go up and you act as and live as a soul. That spirited aspect of you connects with your soul aspect, and you're going on nightly excursions and healing yourself at nighttime. So every time at night, that's when we do our greatest healing, because that's when we return to the greater soul culmination. It's just easier for us to do when we're asleep, because we're not in the body of judgment. We're not in the body of our beliefs or our dogma or whatever the social systems are. When we awaken, that's when we go back into the remembrance of the matrix. So the more that you can, as you wake up every day, is to state to yourself that you're just releasing whatever matrix patterns there are, and just allowing yourself to kind of, move beyond old patterns and old paradigms, right? Gorgeous day. So it's really fun to look at that culminating source, and it's really allows you to have release a lot of judgment, especially if you're finding aspects of your soul review and your life review right now to be really challenging. Dark nights of the soul and having your ego, those ego deaths, are there for a profound purpose. Your soul, your higher self, will bring ego deaths at any time that you, again, are constantly ignorant to others around you. It's when you're not abiding by universal laws that your soul, your higher self, will manifest ego deaths. And those are tower moments, because you're not abiding and you're not aligning with the greater laws of the universe to be pulled into that greater ball of love. That's what your soul wants. Your soul wants you to be on that amalgamation of love. But there's a lot of beliefs that make you act ignorant and in pain of others, because you're in pain of yourself. And so that's, again, just recognizing, and doing the ascension path work, so that you're not manifesting yourself out of friendship circles and manifesting yourself out of really good relationships that cared about you and honored you, because that's what that behavior does. And some of that too is entity attachment. And the attachment we've talked about a lot of time is because, again, it's your sense of self. If you have a low sense of self, then you're going to be in behaviors and practices, and you're going to be with those that also have a low sense of self. And then you have practices of low sense of self, and then that is through the intention that entities become attached, and that is through your own intention, direction, and focus. So everything is purposeful. But to master all that you are as a source aspect, they're great explorations for you to honor and know. I wouldn't be able to talk about what I talk about unless I've gone to all levels of experience, right? And knowing how to heal it, right? So to amplify the sound of source and God is to soften and deepen. So the more you soften within yourself as acceptance and love, as everything is being source creator, that will allow your song to be more rich. Again, what is natural beauty? Is to be rich in spirit, right? You're culminating into, yeah, I get that. You know, you don't want to stay in those. You can still connect with those energies of hate and violence because they're all you, but you don't have to stay there. You're not meant to stay in those energies and those vibrations. That's when you're accepting the shadow, you're accepting the soul. Everything in our collective are parts of who we are. So again, whatever it is you're seeing in the collective is part of who you are. You're meant to integrate that and see how you can rise above and create better for the greater good, right? Because you affect the all. That's what oneness is. We're practicing our oneness. So calling it forth and then combining it. So that's what amalgamation is. You're constantly amalgamating source. You're calling it in, harmonizing your soul fragments. That now impression is going to be really important because you're that higher voice of all of those scattered soul fragments, like tuning the radio station. And you're going to renew with new views, with new light, with new honorings, and new sacredness and new acceptance, right? Because the more you accept yourself in that, you're not going to judge yourself and leave those aspects separate. So calling it in, say, yes, I accept you. Now this is where I'm going in my energy vibration. And state that with intention. This is my now energy vibration. And then those aspects of energy have the right to go to another chat group if they will, because they want to play with energies that, you know, want to play in certain ways and certain vibrations. So that's source creator, right? So that's where acceptance and allowance is so key. Allow everybody on whatever path they're on, because some people aren't quite there yet. They don't want to be there. But you also have the right to be respected. You also have the right to speak your truth. You also have the right to live and be as you wish. So there is equal opportunity for the amalgamation of source creator. So again, you're going to be renewing yourself with your new views, your new beliefs, new light and new softening, so that you can lessen up on the harshness. And that becomes that new version of you. Source God is always folding in on itself. That's what we talked about, the toroidal. The lower systems get pulled out and then it gets brought back up in, so that you can imagine that within your breath. We practice that in our Ascension classes. The higher aspects of you constantly calling in those lower soul fragments. Because remember, my collective of source creator was showing me that 700 and however many, I said 752 aspects of me, they're all spiraling in the aspects of all that is the multiverse. There'll be really small soul fragments from another universe they'll call in that might have a similar vibration of a story that I just went through here. So that soul fragment from another multiverse can be integrated. It's whether people get that or feel it or not, I don't know, because I'm not everybody. But I know when I feel things from another universe, they just feel different. They're not big in my life. Those vibrations are not big. You know, like nature, the nature energy, the nature frequency is a big energy for me. So that's the energies that are more in my now moment, because it's more of the harmonization. It helps you connect with the now. It helps you connect with your higher self, with healing and all of those aspects, because we're on earth. So again, you're going to get more refined at sensing and feeling what are the vibrations you're tuning to, because it's your interpretation of you being God. The higher vibration you go into as a frequency of God, you're going to have more plays, more threads to play with. That's why I said earlier, you're going to be more refined at interpreting, sensing. As you put out, you're going to be returning it back. Whatever you put out comes back to you. How to interpret those energies, how to download those energies, how to process light. So the greater light culmination you are, you're going to have more light things to play with. And because you have that they were showing me that new oversoul, the oversoul is becoming more prominent, which means it's more certain and sure. So you'll notice a difference when you're practicing your channeling. Source God is always folding in on itself, and the higher you go, the faster you oscillate. So the higher in vibration you go, the higher vibration that you reach for, the aptitude that you reach for, that's when creativity and imagining is going to be so key. And why we say in your Ascension Pathwork, do a lot of creative writing, painting, singing, because it allows you to connect more seamlessly and more fluidically with your higher self, source creator. Right? The higher you go, the faster you oscillate. Again, so that's taking care of your body, drinking lots of water, refining your food, refining your environment, refining your friend circle. That's doing the inner work, right? Because you want to be nourished, right? You're going to have because you're going to be oscillating fast, you're going to have a greater rate of renewal. You're going to have a greater breath, mass capacity with source. That's really important. We're going to go into that in our class because it's really, hi from Oregon. Nice to see you. I'm not really seeing you, but I see your energy. The source of breath, for those that have been doing your path work, we're going to do an exercise they were showing me for source breath. And it's the amalgamation of source we're going to start practicing. So I felt a difference. So I can't wait to practice with you in our class that's coming up on the 20th, if you want to join us for that class. So the rate of renewal is going to get faster. We're going to be oscillating faster. That's again why your now impression is going to be really important to ground and balance. You'll know those that are not balanced and those that are balanced. So that's why practicing your ascension pathwork is going to be really important. Again, because we're just going to keep accelerating, right? And you're going to have those soul fragments that want to come in and be harmonized and amalgamated. And the song and the sound and the bliss of source is always returning you back to you. You'll always be in a constant state of remembering who you are. That's why awakening is so fun. It's like, oh yeah, I remember. At a soul level, you remember. When you sit down to meditate and you're asking for visions, and you're sitting down to meditate, you're asking for remembrances, just before you go to bed, ask for a vision or a remembrance from another lifetime. And then journal it the next morning when you wake up. That's how you become more attuned, more refined, more connected with your spirit, more having a better relationship with your higher self. That's when you start connecting and amalgamating with source. So in our classes and in our sessions, I help you practice becoming higher vibrational. I help you practice becoming higher aligned. I want you to feel excited about feeling soul infused, because to me that's natural beauty. When you're not afraid of any aspect, you can talk about any aspect, you're claiming it and you're helping others, right? You're a big soul infused being. You can carry a lot of experiences and you can carry a lot of light and help anybody along the way. And we're all a story of oneness. And those are going to be the leaders that will be needed, right? Those are the leaders of a new earth. It's opportunity to continue knowing that we're all amalgamating with one another. That's source creative, that's oneness. We can step aside if it makes us feel easier within ourselves until that healing is done, that wounding is done from the Akashic God wounding. What does God mean for us? Because there's a lot of people that do have wounding, about God, that word of God. And it's so misunderstood. I can't say it's misunderstood because everybody's version of what God is perfect for them. But there is just a lot of, old dogmatic energy about God that is not necessarily correct. It's very limited. It's very judgmental. It doesn't help us ascend. So I'm getting easier to practice with new verbiage as well. Right? I'm becoming a little bit more soft. And that's just my own acceptance too. I had a huge clearing yesterday. It was a pretty deep clearing. Not judging it. It was a very deep clearing. Every time I have one of those clearings, like, is that going to get easier? Because what the hell was that? Spending a half a day on a dark night of the soul. It's like, what the fuck? But it's not like it was 3 days like it was, years ago. 3 days of dark night of the soul. Now it's like a couple of hours. But it was a really deep one. That was a really soul fragment that I was healing for. It was a collective that I was healing for. And it was harsh. It was a really harsh soul fragment for the collective that I was healing. And the systems of light, they always tell me, they always say the systems of light would like to thank you for your work. So I know that I'm doing a lot for them. It'd be nice for other people to do it. It's like, okay, you guys can do some clearing. Why am I the only one out here? It's like I'm on the ball field with my mitt and I'm the only one out there. I used to play fastball. So it's like I'm the only one standing in the field. Where is everybody? Where the fuck did everybody go? They went home a long time ago. And so here's what they said. They said, yes, we're your collective of source creator. And then they just explained to me, as I said to you earlier, what that collective of source creator was, because normally it's Mother, Father, God, right? So now I'm changing and I'm up leveling and I'm getting used to new verbiage and stuff. So God wanted to step aside, Mother, Father, God wanted to step aside and say, no, this is your collective of source creator, right? They're giving the stage to more aspects of my oversoul, right? So the voice becomes grander and more sure. The mother and the father, of course, are always with you, and all of your source aspects, because there's no disconnection. Just like you can never be disconnected from your children, especially for mother energy, because mother energies are sown at a very essence experience. So you can never ever be disconnected from anybody, really, but you have those more deeper connections with your children. And so too is Mother, Father, God. Mother, Father, God will never ever be disconnected from you. They can never be, but they will hand over the stage for your oversoul. And your oversoul, every new phase of ascension, a new aspect of your oversoul wants to step forward. It's the grander voice of you. Because I hope I'm explaining this. Every new phase that you're going through, you're harmonizing into a faster, higher rate of you being source. So this is where we say, what I offer is Christ consciousness, and there's codes in there. So when you so desire, if you so desire, after the phone call, after this session, go and think about those statements, because they're filled with lots of juice. They're filled with Christ consciousness juice. It helps you shift your perspective. It helps you activate. It helps you remember, again, as we said in that writing, you're remembering bits and pieces of who you are. Oh yes, I remember that. You're wanting to see yourself in higher vibrational ways. You do have overself that comes in, and your oversoul that comes in, because you're oscillating at that higher rate to match it. Remember, it's equal measure. So this is where we were saying about the capacity and aptitude, and every new scale of ascension bandwidth, new level of dimensional thread, new level of oscillating equations, because you've integrated, you've created greater capacity, greater mass, because you're working as a greater light body. Your oversoul is more the tuning of the station, right? You've got that, okay, that's it. I'm hearing that clearly. So there's sometimes too where I ask my teams, especially if you're going through, don't do this while you're going through a dark night of the soul. Always do it kind of after, when you've kind of integrated all those soul fragments and you're journaling. What did I feel? How did I feel? How come? What in my everyday life is showing me those belief systems? How can I change my belief? How can I call in greater energy, greater light, greater acceptance? And then it's always about self-love. And as you're doing that, you're allowing yourself to know that you're becoming a grander version of you. You're not going to become a grander version of you if you keep suppressing and resisting. And that's when your soul and your oversoul and your higher self will manifest, and God will manifest in ego death. Because the ego is not ever going to be the driver. As we said in our social post this morning on our YouTube channel, your ego will never ever be the driver. And those that think that the ego is the driver, manifesting because they want their story to manifest, they want their narrative to manifest, they don't want to face their shadow. They don't want to be accountable for their deeds. So they maintain that ego negative shadow energy, greed, envy, jealous, selfishness, whatever those energies are. And usually they are attached, if they haven't heeded the call, 3 cycles and spirit is saying enough is enough, we're going to throw you an ego death. Those are usually really big towers. And you don't want it to get to that, because normally there's going to be a lot of chaos and destruction or loss. And it never has to get like that, but sometimes you have to experience loss to get the lesson. Like, did it need to get to a loss? Did what we were doing need to get to a loss? So spirit and your higher self and your soul will make you look at what is really important. Copying another's persona, all of those things, we're just giving my soul's experience as an example. The people that were stalking and copying and all of those things that they were doing for over 8 years, they were doing it from a lack of sense of self, and they weren't willing to face that shadow energy. So they had copied my business and doppelgangered and falsified documents, all of that stuff. And the obsessiveness and the intention and the relentlessness, especially the dangers of that is that most of them were not balanced, because they were not integrating any of their soul fragments. So they're mentally imbalanced, emotionally imbalanced, because not only did they do those things from shadow energies, because that's why you do crime, is from a shadow energy, that they weren't healing. They weren't taking all of the many years of the same message I was bringing forward. They were choosing not to heal. But they were also, an even dangerous, attribute was mixing it with conjuring demonic energies, conjuring devil energies, conjuring dark energies, and black magic and voodoo. That's just an elixir for danger. That's an elixir for the towers that are being manifested. Because again, it's all equation. It's just like going to a table and putting a bunch of gunpowder on a table, and then a match and a bunch of hay. You're creating that elixir for danger. So you can't expect anything different. And spirit will, for the greater good, make sure that those towers are residing within those creating the energies. Because spirit is always about the greater good. There are those that manifest themselves into the experiences because they choose at a higher soul level to be a part of that experience for the greater collective mirror. Because the underground is such a huge corruption experience and thread for our entire collective, it's a multi-billion-dollar business. Countries are run off of corruption, and they know they are. The underground black web, the porn industry, runs countries, unfortunately. It's a mass producer of monies. Why? They can be redirected and reignited into something that's benefiting of humanity. All of those souls are going to be very low vibrating souls, whether they think that they're in the money, if you will. It's a very low vibrational experience. The porn industry is a very low vibrational experience. Their bodies are out of whack, their minds are out of whack, their spirits are out of whack, their emotional bodies are out of whack, there's entity attachments, there's cords. It's a mess. If we're just talking about one person that does porn, one person that watches porn on a consistent basis. So again, you have to understand everything is energy. Those, as we're continually being bathed by refined, pure light on our planet, everything that was underground, whether it's in your own home, whether it's in your own community, whether it's in your church, whether it's in school, anything that's being done under the ground or in the dark or behind closed doors, whatever you want to call it, the words don't matter. Everything will have to be seen and sorted out, placed on the table. There will be those that played and behaved, like mafia or gang people or Masons that don't want to heal, Masons that refuse to see themselves as spirit, Masons that only want to see themselves as dominators and handlers. Those people in those energies that don't want to surrender to spirit, that choose not to see themselves as godly, not the power over others as God, they're not playing God, but those that want to evolve as a soul, those are going to be beings that will slowly ascend because they're willing to let go of ego so that they can be a grander soul. As long as you're following the universal laws, and if you choose to use energy in magical ways, and if you're following the universal laws, you will continue to ascend and expand, and God will allow that and honor that, and so will your higher self and soul. Those that are just refusing to and just consistently refusing to, heed by the universal laws, they just want to keep seeking to hurt, keep seeking to target. And that's the way it was getting with me. Even now, they were still doing spell work as of last week, as of a couple days ago. They're still doing spell work. They're still doing the same patterns. Their souls are manifesting ego deaths. Source, creator, and their ancestors have given so much grace and leeway for them to wake up. And because the monies are not returned, my platforms are still blocked. Because things have not changed, it's got to open up and change. Everything has to be returned to me. My energy has to be returned. I gave a lot out. People took advantage. People took a lot, and it has to be returned. And so everybody will manifest ego deaths that was involved in, all 50 people. They showed me out of those 50 people, because they just told me this morning, which is funny because I like to work with numbers too. I said, out of those 50 plus people that were involved in that 8-year discrimination, human testing, targeting, fraud, theft, whatever you want to call it, exploitation, discrimination, everything that had happened in those 50 plus people that were involved, five out of those 50 were officials with official titles, official roles, official placements in this community, and so on and so forth. So those 5 people are absolutely manifesting ego deaths, because they took part in things that absolutely went against my human rights. They went against all spiritual rights, and they did it over and over and over and over again. They were paid many times. They did abhorrent things many times. They knew what they were signing and letting papers go back and forth that shouldn't have gone back and forth. There was a lot of people that had their hands in it, and very official titles and very official roles, that knew the paperwork passing back and forth, that knew the fraud. While I sat homeless for just about 3 years, they knew the energies that were being shifted back and forth. So those will be the first ones, as Source said. The last will be first and the first will be last. That those ego deaths will, just like the old templates, right, getting pulled out from underneath the collective bedding, that old pattern of that vessel, that Merkaba, that being, that one person, that old template will get pulled out. That's what's called an ego death. They fall as the soul and the spirit of them, whatever that tower looks like to them. It might be a loss of a job. It might be a loss of a family member. It might be a loss of whatever was important to them. Whatever that blockage is, whether it's money coming in, whether it's title, whether it's their place in society, whatever was the importance of the ego. You know, that's why people act from ego. That's why they have the wounding, because they were driven by those false beliefs. So that's when spirit and your higher self and your soul will manifest an ego death. And that ego death is for you to look at your shadow. And that's where in those ego deaths, you're going to have that dark night of the soul. You have to face that shadow. Most of the leaders that are out there, as we've said in many of our things, most of our leaders are absolutely disconnected. They don't even know what a higher self is. Your higher self will manifest whatever it needs to for you to look at your shadow. And that will be when you have an ego death. You know, and you have to have those ego deaths. You're never going to evolve, and you're never going to be a rich soul and a beautiful soul if you don't have those ego deaths. Look forward to it. Yes. Thank God the ego's not driving anymore. My God, my life was a mess. Your life is a mess because you're allowing your ego to be too much in the play. If you're just allowing your spirit to take over and just saying, okay, higher self, guide me however my higher self wants to guide me today. I know that my higher self will guide me to the highest vibrational experience. That's what your higher self is for. You have teams and guides always around you, guiding you. Your teams and your higher self are always taking you to these beautiful little places so you can heal, these beautiful little places to see something you've never seen before. If you just allow spirit and your higher self and your guides and let God do what God does, surrender to godliness, surrender to knowing that everything is godly. You know, there's just like such a rich, beautiful experience. The ego has no idea what it's doing. The ego is not spirit. The ego is disconnect. And there's been a lot of our collective that is sitting in disconnection. They have no idea what spirit is. They have misguided beliefs about God. They have misguided beliefs about source creator. They have misguided beliefs about who they are because it's been a low vibrational 3D experience. As I said earlier, what impression and perspective do we have about divine feminine? What does divine feminine beauty look like? How can we start creating beautiful divine feminine imprints for 5D? Right? Because we're a higher conscious being, we're a higher intelligent. We're not operating from a low vibrational 3D experience where, oh yeah, divine feminine usually gets plastic surgery by the time she's 30 because she looks old and she doesn't seem wanted or needed. Those are very low vibrational, superficial experiences. That has nothing to do with being rich in soul and rich in spirit. And I've brought a lot of those forward, and I break a lot of conformity experiences. And sometimes people that are in ego get triggered so much by our videos, because I challenge it all. You know, it doesn't matter who is standing before me as far as a 3D ranking. I'm high rank in the spiritual realm, and I'll be supported, and I'll have the way cleared for me because I've done the work, and I humble myself every day, you know, before Source Creator. That matters to Source. It matters to Source that you take time to help animals. It takes a soul infused being, somebody that cares about planet Earth, somebody that's, you know, presentable to yourself no matter what you look like or what you're going through, but you still love yourself. Source cares about that. That gives you a higher ranking than anybody that says they have a title or they're a so-called 33-degree Mason. That means nothing. That means nothing. It's an earthly term. It's an earthly word. If you're a dick and you treat people like they're nothing, that means nothing to anybody, and it's a very low vibrational experience, and you're not ranked in the spiritual realm. And you will manifest a soul ego death. Your soul will say enough is enough. You're treating people like a dick, and you've been told for 8 years to stop. You've been told for 8 years every day, 100 times a day, stop doing spell work. And the person just keeps doing spell work. So, okay, well, we're going to give you an ego death. It just gets more and more and more until it says, okay, we've told you about 8 million times. Is it necessary for you to manifest a loss? Lose your house, lose your job. It's going to keep snowballing. Your ego death is going to keep snowballing because you're manifesting a faster return to Source. Right? So that's why ego deaths are necessary. And that's why losses, unfortunately, in the collective that I've just come from, they're going to have many losses. They were obsessively, relentlessly attacking me daily in the spiritual realm. They were doing everything they could, pain practitioners all over the world, to attack me. Some practitioners refused to do the spell work because they knew who I was in the spiritual ranking, and they knew that it would come back on them. So it's about your honor of all that is life. Nobody on this planet holds over a ranking with God. They just don't. And if they think they do, and if they think that a 33-degree Mason means something in the spiritual realm, it doesn't. That's an ego definition that makes somebody think that they can do things. And how most Masons have been behaving, they haven't been abiding by universal laws. And many of them, most all of them, will manifest an ego death. They have to. If you're not abiding by universal laws, you will manifest an ego death. Your soul says that's not important. Doing spell work to interfere with another person's life is not important. It's against universal laws. You're creating karma. You're creating debt. You're creating harm for your children. You're creating damage for your community. There will be an ego death because it's absolutely universal law. Again, source is amalgamating itself back to source. Source knows what source is doing. God knows what God's doing. Every person has a higher self. Every person has a soul. Every person has a destiny. So when other people in the collective think that they're playing God, trying to force somebody to be in their story when they say, no, I don't want to be in your story 8 zillion times, I have my rights. I want to be respected. Why am I being ignored? I've said the same thing for 8 years. No means no. Why is that not being taken as no? Right? Why does one have to say no 800 times a day? I'm an empath. I'm a conduit. People that do energy and spell work on me, I feel it. It's constant. It's relentless. And my ancestors, every day my ancestors are pulling the red flag and saying, that's it. They're pulling out the carpet from underneath everybody. And everybody's going to experience their tower moments. Some of it will be losses because they've told Spirit and God and Archangel Michael and all of the ancestors, everybody in the community has known to stop doing the spell work, stop bringing harm. If you do black magic and if you do voodoo and you interfere with other people's lives and you're consistently doing it on a daily fucking basis, it will ruin your life and you will manifest absolute loss. However, God deems that loss. And again, if you've done a lot of harm to a lot of people by continually doing spell work and voodoo to get your own way, you're going to have a loss, and it will be immediate, and it will be in your family, and it will be, yeah. Well, you know, I want to touch on that. If you are frank, some people don't put their real names and they just have a lot of fake things. Natural selection, it is, we don't want to take it as a verbatim. However, those that are doing the work, and as Jesus has said, and all of our ancient texts have noted, that when you know thyself and you're aligning with your true sense of self, you know what your truth is and you know what your vibration is, and you're allowing that self-love and integration, you're always returning to self, you're always manifesting that. That is in and of itself the micro-macro of natural selection. Because, as they said earlier, it is a long and straight and narrow path to the alignment of return to source. Those will be the ones that make it, and those that don't. Because you know that, okay, the more that you keep going against the systems of the universal laws, you're going to be weeded out. You can't, no, Spirit, God, the universe, the collectives, the federations, you won't. You'll manifest yourself out. 5D is oneness. 5D is oneness. If everybody on the planet was affected, when we have our hearts sewn as one, you doing black magic and voodoo is affecting the entire collective. So yes, natural selection. If you're not abiding by 5D laws, as we've been stating for 2 years now, preparing everybody, as we're accelerating faster and faster, natural selection in and of itself, and we say people have a misconception of natural selection, so we kind of veer away from saying those things. But in essence, yes, that's what it is. We want to go deeper and wider, though, because it's more than that. The vibrational equation of the bedding will just not allow you to continue the movement into ascension. That's why they've said, not all people that are in your soul path last year are going to go with you in ascension. There's going to be people with you on the journey long term. There's going to be people that will not be with you. They cannot oscillate at that higher vibration because they're not doing their integration. They're not doing their shadow work. And if they're not abiding by laws and they're doing black magic every day, they're not abiding by universal laws. They're not doing their shadow work. There's no need for magic. If you're doing magic, it should only be on healing the earth and healing you, period. If you're doing it for any other reasons, you're not abiding by universal laws and you're not moving on the ascension path, and you'll manifest an ego death. See that face there in the cloud? Isn't that cool? You can connect with your celestials in the clouds. So try that. Just go out and... So yes, Frank, what you were saying is, yes, that is an aspect. We want to be softer and wider and more expansive with the words and the terminologies, because you want to be able to ingather other energies in your space and in your collective by a higher vibrational, more inclusive verbiage, which means that knowing of thyself will just allow you to keep culminating your source aspects, your soul fragments within yourself, and knowing that it's not up to us because it's not our rule, but I'm just giving it to you as a vibrational equation. Those that continually, as they're showing now, those that have been doing what they've been doing to me for my whole life, really, more importantly, it's been talked about. I've been talking about my story for about 6 years. So my story has been voiced. My message in my story has been the same about the discrimination, the erasing of divine feminine. And there's many male collectives that, because my channel is not shared all over the world, it has been a great preparatory experience for me, because when I am shared with the entire globe, there is many, many, many more misogynists that don't want to see divine feminine have a voice. We will have to transcend those genres of discrimination, because misogyny is not going to be in 5D. It's impossible. We have to heal that. We have to integrate it. Again, oneness in 5D means that you've worked through that wounding. You've worked through those beliefs. You've worked through that discrimination. You've worked through that mirror reflection. You've accepted it. You've honored it. Again, your choosing of yourself, if you want to use those words, your own natural selection. Yeah, no, I'm going to go for this ride. I'm going to integrate all that I can, and I'm going to abide by the laws, and I'm going to humble myself. Because there's infinite, there's no number. There's no number that is out there that can say the infinite beings that are above and expanded beyond you. So who says that you're anybody to interfere with another person's life? Who are you? And that's what God says. You keep denying the universal laws. You do have to operate within universal laws. And there's going to be bit by bit, day by day, everyone will be called out on their heeding or non-heeding. If you are heeding universal laws, it's your natural selection, if you will. We don't want to go into the Darwinian theories, because a lot of it is it's just like reading the Bible. It's a basis point, but it's not all that it is. It's so dynamic right now because we're so fluid with energy. We're multidimensional. Darwinian law doesn't have any play about source and multidimensionality. So I've never been, I accept it. It's a part of our growth, but it has no bearing on who we are as multidimensional source beings. But it is a very important part that you brought up. And that's always an aspect that you can talk about in higher vibrational knowledge and wisdom. You know that there's a difference between knowledge is people that just read books. That's knowledge. They're reading the book, but they don't really grasp it. They don't really understand it. They're not gathering it as an emotional intelligence. When you're higher in wisdom and honoring, you have a lot of source experience, and you've had that minutia of play. As I said, you want to go slow with all the soul fragments of who you are as spirit, right? Who you are as a Christed being and all the soul crystals. You want to see every fragment and aspect that you are, and you want to go deep into it. You want to see, let's go into that shadow. What did I think about that? Why did I think about that? Because you want to be able to be the master of those experiences. You can't be the master of any experience if you're just denying it and resisting it, or you're saying it doesn't exist. And then there's also too, when God and the teams have also said, enough is enough. You've played the game. You've practiced your little black magic and your voodoo. There's been great harm, and there's nothing but constant delays and relentless, hurdles put in my place. And God said enough. And so many of the people that are now, it plays a beautiful part on all ways, because now all these people are saying, well, maybe there is a God, because why are all these things happening? Well, it's twofold. It's the return and the backfire of all the nasty and hate and the jealousy and the envy that you put out. So it is returning. That energy has to come back to you. You've intended it. That's why voodoo and magic and sacrificing is misunderstood, because they're not understanding the energy of who they are in the equation. Creational reality is an equation, and you can look at it from different vantage points of natural selection. It's a bit more elegant and more eloquent than that, but that's about creational reality, everybody taking responsibility and accountability. If you're not going to take responsibility and accountability, absolutely, you will manifest a freaking ego death. And it plays a grand, any ego death that you see around people around you, Trump going through what he did as an ego death, he needed an ego death, and he's going to manifest many more. Everybody that's in government right now will manifest ego deaths. They have to see and face what they have created is not in alignment with universal laws. And you, as a collective contributor, you have to say, okay, well, I'm not okay with that either. I'm going to state what I need to state, and I'm going to act however I can act that's going to be a positive influence, because you're an influencer at all equations of the creational reality, right? You are not the whole creational reality, but you are an influencer of it, right? You are the light within all equations, so that you can influence positively and lovingly, not in protest, not in resistance or denial, not in non-acceptance and discrimination, but you can do it from a positive, influential way. And that's what we empower all masters. You can't be a positive, influential master if you're not taking your time on seeing yourself and knowing yourself as all aspects of the crystal, of the point, of the flat part, of the juicy part that's inside, that does all the healing. You know, there's many, many aspects to how any crystal, you know, that you are of source, the fractal, right? That fractal experience. And so you can operate in that way. And just know too that there will be many around you, especially now that we're accelerating and we're going into a new season, there will be many that will, that manifest themselves out because they're not doing the work. They don't care to do the work. They're refusing to do the work. And God and that higher self are only the ones that are able to take the next soul experience, by manifesting them out into returning back to source. And that's what an ego death does. It returns you back to source, because the ego is not the grander part, right? Universal laws are the grander part. Human laws are not the grander part of the equation. They help us keep an infinite amount of red tape and rhetoric, but if all of our human collective just abided by the 3 universal laws, you could eliminate so much rhetoric and red tape and wasting of money and wasting of resources and confusion and time and energy. And we are getting there. In another year from now, our legal systems, our judiciary systems, everything that we see in our social collective will change, because all we have to do is just align with source. And if every person aligns with source, aligns with their higher self, there will be fewer crimes. There will be fewer, 1 billion. How much did they show me? It was like 144 million. Probably more than that. 140, because if there's how many billion in the US alone, Western Canada. 144 million, we'll just say that. 144 million spent on healing services for physically abused, spousal abuse, things like that. That can be eradicated. 144 million. So instead of putting the monies that funnel into the underground, no, you need to heal these people. Who's going to look after that? Where are the healing systems for that? That's going to, as I say, if we talk micro, macro, everything is a molecule. Everything is an aspect of source. It's all source creator. It's all connected with source. As source is in gathering a greater source element, as a greater source vibration, as a greater light, that underground is going to be pulled out, and that underground will face its own ego death, because the whole it's distorted. It's everything that is distorted. It's all distorted. And it's warping the physical body. It's warping the physical energy of Gaia. It's warping the children's vibration, of course. It's warping how our imprints are in our collective. And so this is why everybody will have to face their beliefs and their behaviors and their patterns. Yes, that's a very important question. Thank you for asking it. High vibration is, again, knowing yourself and stating your standards. And so those that are in your house and those that are in your circles, you just have to state, this is where I'm moving right now. These are my explorations, and these are my standards. This is what feels good to me physically, mentally, emotionally. You have to draw it out, write it out. This is where I feel good physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You can either be a part of my ride, or you can slowly move yourself off. And sometimes you have to give people the options, right? Because they want to be included in the journey. So most of the time you create karma for yourself if you're just ghosting them. Sometimes your team will say, depending on how much abuse they've done to you and how much ignorance and how much disrespect they've caused you, sometimes your teams will just say, if you've done all the right things, that's why I say have those karma board discussions every week, because then your teams will guide you on the most highest vibrational way for you to not earn karma by hurting or harming other people. So when you're wanting to establish a higher vibrational way, you affect the environment. Remember, you're the influencer. But you also have to state your new set standards because you're a physical, mentally, emotional, spiritual being. So all of those parts of your equation have to play a part of your new reality. So it's just about having that discussion. I want to be on the ascension journey. This is what I need physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and metaphysically. Who wants to be a part of this ride? And who wants to, everybody has free will, right? And if they don't want to be a part of the ascension ride, then you can say in a nice and kind way, you need to see yourself into a new direction because it's really important for my soul to move in this direction. For the betterment of my children, for the betterment, I want a better job, that's going to be on 5D Earth. Your soul, when you have those soul awakenings and you are awake, you'll feel it in the center of your being. That's your soul. It's like the amalgamation of source. It's all micro macro. The soul of you wants to be amalgamated into bigger parts of your soul because it feels good. It feels unified. It feels important. It feels like it has a destiny. It feels like it has a purpose, right? That's that soul urging. You can't mistake that. It's not just a flimsy, whimsy thought. No, it's your soul saying, no, there's something happening here. I got to get moving on this. So that is, you have to speak your truth. That's why your voice and your chakras and why truth is so important. Know thyself. Because if you're not speaking what spirit is showing you to speak, set your standards, speak your truth. If you're not speaking your truth, everybody around you will continue using you and abusing you and taking advantage of you because you've allowed it. You haven't set your standards. You haven't set your boundaries to say, no, this is important to me. You're not going to cross that boundary. You cannot come into my meditation space when I'm meditating. This is really important for me that I have undisturbed time. And you can put a little calendar on the thing and have your own spaces. There's many people that will be creating communal spaces. That's fine. But that communal space has to be respected, right? And there will be people that will cross your boundaries. And as we said, all of those people that cross your boundaries are the catalyst for you to become stronger and holding your own space, holding your own truth. And again, remember, as long as you're doing what you're guided, remember, always heed your higher self. What's my part in the transaction? If you're always heeding to your higher self, what's my part in the transaction? And you're moving in all the right ways. You're doing what you need to legally. You're doing what you need to goodwill and good honor. You're treating people with respect and all of those things. If you're doing all of that, Spirit will just say, hand it over to us, surrender it to us, and let us take care of it. Right? If you have been impeding on other people's boundaries and you don't care, you have to look at it as a whole picture. If people are doing that to you, what have you done in others and why have you allowed it? So again, Spirit always wants you to reclaim your power. These are my new boundaries. These are my new standards. Do you want to come along for the ride or not? Give them that option because Spirit always gives the option to you. You're training yourself to be more like Source Creator. Are you abiding by the universal laws? The top 3 laws are right use of free will and non-interference. You want to give them their right use of free will. And sometimes there will be those, because they're so used to taking advantage of people, they have no upbringing on boundaries. They have no sense of self. They have no idea who they are. They're using drugs. They're using black magic. They're using voodoo. They do binding spells and all the stuff that is messy, karmic, thick, sludgy, mudge mess. All that stuff is just mess. You can't know who you are when you're in a spell fog. And there's a lot of people under a spell fog, in the city where I came from, there were so many people doing spells because it was a corrupt area. And the underground uses things like that to target people and to keep people confused so that they don't have their narratives brought to the forefront. It has to be brought to the forefront, and it will be. And everybody's going to manifest an ego death. They have to. That ego death is a perfect opportunity for everybody to sit down and say, okay, why did I manifest this? Okay, well, maybe there's some things I need to straighten up. I need to align. I want to go on this ride. Or you can just keep manifesting yourself into criminal activity. Because essentially that's what spell work is. It's criminal activity. It's a cult crime. You don't have any right to impede on anybody's life. Right? Like, who the hell is anybody to ugly spell and a poverty spell? And I don't want to. That's a lot of sociopathic, psychopathic energies you need to heal. You got to go in and heal that abandonment rejection issue. You got to know who you are. You should be the only one that feeds you. You should be the only one that relies on you. You and Source are all you need. And then set the standards, set the boundaries, Every day, set boundaries. If there's people that cross those boundaries, spend less and less time with them, set clearer and clearer boundaries with them, be strong and stand firm in your boundaries and speak your truth. They're not going to know your boundaries if you're not speaking it. Doing spell work on them to make them go away is not setting boundaries. That's an immature behavior, right? You can't expect, you need to be responsible and mature. You're growing up in a new level of ascension. No, these are my boundaries. I want to be on the ascension ride. We're not seeing eye to eye in a lot of things that I'm changing, and I'm radically changing. Spirit's waking me up at a really fast pace. I really want to go on this ascension ride. Where are you? Where are you at with this? Let's put everything on the table. And then have everybody be a part of the inclusivity, right? As Commander Asher said, the best leaders are the ones that include. So you're giving them an opportunity to be included in the ascension path. You have to state your comfort level, though. I'm okay with giving this, but you have to also give that. And everybody's going to be reliant on themselves, especially women that had a lot of, cult, coven, poly kind of things where they rely on each other, and it's a lot of codependency, a lot of wounding. You have to look at it and say, boy, that was a great lesson. How can we grow as a tribe? Because you want to grow as a tribe instead of a codependent clique. There's a lot of toxicity and a lot of dysfunction there. Everybody has to heal their wounding. That's why I've never been a fan of poly, because I've always seen it from a higher perspective. It's okay if you have the experience once in a while, but you remain detached and you make that very clear. Covens and all that kind of stuff, super, super toxic and super messy. Everybody involved is going to get hurt, bar none. And at every level, every person involved will have a very, very high sense of self. You wouldn't want to share your life force with that many people because it's a very sacred experience, and you'll feel yourself being drained. So those poly experiences never ever work out vibrationally, because everybody at a different stage of enlightenment, of awareness. Everybody's at a different phase of healing. Everybody's at a different phase of codependence or not codependence. Poly is usually codependence. They want to rely on each other for something. And especially if you're the ones that I've heard about, a lot of them that do spell work and magic and interference and scamming and scheme. I mean, they're just a mess. It's just a criminal mess. It's a mess, vibrational mess. So you have to, it's okay. It's a great learning experience. You have to accept all parts of yourself in that experience. And you have to heal. Everybody involved has to heal. You have to go to each person involved, say, this is where I'm at. How is the best way to honor all souls involved? Because you're going to run into those souls in another lifetime. You're going to run into those souls in another experience. So you want to be able to clear the karma. You want to be able to say equally on all levels, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You can't just ghost people. That's karma. There are times, depending on how much abuse they've given you, how much disrespect they've done, how much they've stolen from you and taken from you. In those situations, Spirit will say, leave it to us. You've done all that you can. Ghost them. Block them on all aspects of your social media. But sometimes even then they use fake names, and they'll, we're now stating those standards. New standard now. We're going to respect each other. Respect is paramount. And then the underground will be pulled up, because you're going to see the flow and the ease and the manifestation and the abundance when you live a more purely aligned life. There's no judgment on it. These are the equations of being aligned with spirit or not being aligned with spirit. If you're disconnected, you're going to have a messy life, because that is what disconnection does. You're not connected to spirit. You're manifesting tower after tower after tower after tower, whether it be a health tower, whether it be a psychological tower, whether it be a mental imbalance tower. And that is the same for spell work. They're all manipulations. It's all manipulation. When you are connected with your higher self, there's no need to have a poly experience. It's not saying it's wrong. I'm saying that it's a messy equation. Work it out. Right? And that's, people have to go through their own experiences because they chose it. So they have to go through, okay, why did I choose it? What belief systems were I at? Where did I feel about myself mentally, physically, emotionally? So you have to work out the minutia. If you're not working out the minutia, you're not going to heal. You're going to choose the same or similar types of energies, where they're going to be you know, mentally and spiritually like that. And there's no judgment. It's just that is the equation. You cannot heal and transcend. You're going to create, again, tower moments all over the place. So we're going to go into, because we just want to get off the line here, we want to do a quick open channel. So we're just going to call in our spirit guides. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Calling in our source essence. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Is there any messages from the councils of light and the federations of light and the star councils that would like to come forward? Any beings, any soul aspects here and now, future now moments? Thank you, Holy Spirit, for allowing us to learn more of who we are through the honor and through the grace of who you are, Holy Spirit. Thank you. Yes, okay, so they're calling in a collective of beings just outside our hemisphere of space. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Yes, we are on light ships above your frequency. I just have to make sure that it's connected. So they're just saying they're just above our hemisphere. Thank you, Holy Spirit. I love you. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Thank you, Holy Spirit. So they are with the galactic federations. Thank you. So there's going to be very many, they're saying tumultuous times in which there was the pervading stories that needed to be faced, challenging stories that need to be faced, exciting times that need to be looked forward to, because as you're allowing yourself to face those really challenging stories, you get to create new. So be okay with it. That's when you're facing all of those aspects. So they're saying that they're along for the ride. They're always there for us to call upon. They're always there for us to know that we're all in this together, and just opening up to receive your source, to receive spirit every day, every hour. Maintaining your balance and your grounding, which we said earlier, so that you're not feeling as scattered. You're calling in all of your soul fragments and that now impression of voice, because you're the one that is the commandmentship of you, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and as a soul. Because you want to be soul infused, because all of those soul fragments are wanting to live through you. You want to have all the creativity, you want to have the inspiration, you want to have the infusion of being a rich, dynamic, beautiful soul. And that's to me what means to me as far as being naturally beautiful. Thank you, Holy Spirit. So they're just saying, they're just showing me as we're calling in those aspects of ourselves, all the different soul aspects of ourselves, they're calling in aspects of us, which they showed me earlier about my collective source creator. My collective source creator was allowing me to see the culmination of that more refined, pure voice, because I was allowing the denser aspects to be let go. And spirit, again, is always guiding you. Especially when you're in really challenging, really confusing karmic experiences, right? You want to absolutely surrender to source and your higher self, because you don't want to earn any more, you don't want to gain any more karma than you've already trying to get yourself out of. That's when you're always feeling like you're going in an uphill battle, because you've accumulated a lot of karma. So you have to show spirit, you have to show source, you have to show the universe that you care about the souls around you. And caring about the souls is different than, there's two ways here. If you're a people pleaser, caring about a soul because you're afraid of what they're going to do or say about you and they're not going to accept you, that is still your lack of sense of self, because you're wanting to be a people pleaser more than you are wanting to stand up for your spirit. If somebody is abusing you, and if somebody is blackmailing you, or somebody's engaging in voodoo and negative karma and all of those things, it's not a matter of caring about how they're going to feel anymore. Get the hell out. Because that's like a death sentence. And why would you do that? Why would you people please to the point where you're going to jail? And many of the people that were from my past, they have emails of exactly those statements. So why would you give in to people who treat you like that and want you to be a part of a criminal ring? You need to stand up for yourself and say, no, I'm a spirit and I'm a soul. But I'm not okay with abandoning my soul. Because that's why you have those guilt feelings. Your spirit is saying, that's not me. That's not who I am. No. And that's where leaving is far more important than sitting around having a conversation with them about what they think about it. No, they've already shown you what they think about it. You need to get the hell out right away. Light workers that get abused, you need to leave. You need to leave. If you're a light worker and you care and you've been doing the work and you've been doing the best that you can. Light workers are the lowest paid people on the planet. We don't have advocacy. We don't have support. We don't have protection from the collective. The protection we have is from spirit and source, because we've chosen to come forward and lead and garner the way and clear the way for all of our collective generations. We know that at a soul level. But on the social human level, we don't have any support. We don't have any protection. Nobody has come to my aid. Nobody, not one person. Not one person brought truth. Not one person paid a penny towards any of the monies they stole, papers they've documented and falsified. None. And my platforms are still shadow banned. So everybody's getting karma, and they're all experiencing ego deaths in the greatest losses that God will allow. Because it's been 8 years of losses or more, my whole entire life, of people lying and deceiving me, keeping information and withholding from me. Why do they get more power on my life than I do? Who the hell are these people? I don't even know these people. Why do they have more clout and more control buttons on my life than me? That's ridiculous. I'm owned by none. I'm claimed by none. I've signed no documents that say I'm an employee, and yet people want me part of their game because my energy gives them clout to keep playing their fucking game. Because they're corrupt. They're using my energy. They're abusing me. They're wanting me to stay a part of their corrupt game. So they can use my energy. They harvest off my energy. They can keep living in my house. They can keep signing papers that are in my name that it's my money. None of those people have rights to my money. And I'm going to be getting it all back plus interest. And I'm going to be getting money. The soul doesn't want to be corrupt. No, it took me a long time to heal. I'm not going to play a corrupt fucking game. No. Not. There's nobody that I would lie for. I wouldn't lie for anybody. I'm not carrying anybody's lie. I'm not carrying their karma. Forget that. They're not going to carry your karma for you. When it comes down to questioning time, they're not going to carry your lie. I guarantee it. 50 plus people, they will not carry anybody's lie. Why? Because they're the devil. They've behaved from their devil shadow energy. They're not going to carry anybody else's lie. They get into questioning with the police, and everybody will speak exactly what happened. Nobody is going to lie. You can talk about your plans and you can talk about what's going to happen when you get questioned. I guarantee you everybody's going to speak their own truth, because they know it's the only way out for their soul. God only accepts truth. So if you're going to sit there and you're going to want an easy way out and you're going to back one another and you're going to think you're lying, you're only creating more karma for yourself in any situation, in all situations, whether it's a business, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a little community crime. I guarantee you, you start lying, you're going to start piling on karma after karma after karma after karma. And I can guarantee you, whether you're a mafia, whether you're the gang, it doesn't matter what you call yourself, a mason, it doesn't matter what the fuck you call yourself. Nobody is going to carry your lies and your deeds. Nobody. Nobody that's smart. God only cares about truth. And usually if you do carry truth, you would never involve yourself with those people, which is why I said no 8 years ago and I left. 8 years ago. It has been an 8-year experience, and people just refuse to allow me to live my life and for me to receive. I deserve to receive. I've done a lot of work on myself. I love who I am. I deserve my blessings, and I'm going to get my blessings. And I deserve everything that's meant for me. And who the hell are these people to say I don't deserve it? Who the fuck are you, as you sit in my house and my money while I was homeless? Who the hell are you? So you'll all go to jail because it's criminal. And each and every one of you will manifest whatever towers, whatever losses that you need to, because all have been told for 6 years to stop targeting, stealing, bullying, and discriminating and exploiting me. Because I'm a master of great, great works. And there's been nothing but so much degradation to me and the entire collective. And it stopped yesterday, the day before that, the day before that. Karma's on top of it now. So it's all coming out. Nobody's going to get missed. And that's the beauty of it, right? Source culminating into source. However it needs to happen. So if source says, okay, the only way out for this is for you to get back into me now. So you're going to culminate yourself back into source by a loss. You're going to manifest yourself out of this reality. So if that's the only way to do it, source says, okay, then it's a contract done with you and your higher self and source. And you're going to leave everybody else behind with the stories that you've chosen to leave behind, because you refused to heed the call, and you refused to do, and you refused to make right, and you refused to do the things that Spirit said. You need to do this to learn your soul's lessons. And your ego is saying, no, I don't. I don't have to play that game. Spirit's saying, okay. I'm just going to keep abusing somebody and throwing them death magic every day and wanting to be with me every day and cock blocking them every day. Who the hell is anybody to do cock blocking? Anybody that does cock blocking spells, anybody, just like put it on a table, put it in a picture and do the infinity. Anybody that does spell work, do the infinity. How ridiculous does that sound? Cock blocking spells. What does that make you sound and what does that make you seem like right when you say that? Somebody that goes and pays for cock blocking, what does that sound like? That sounds like you're insanely insecure and you can't handle a growth experience of having someone that you know or someone that you might care for go and have a loving experience with somebody else. So you go and do a cock blocking experience on somebody for years at a time. What does that say about who you are? What does that say about who you are as somebody that would offer a cock blocking spell? This is where I want people in our collective, I want you to level up. When you hear such things, what does that say about you? If you're someone that offers a cock blocking spell, if you're somebody that offers a poverty spell, if you're somebody that offers a death spell, a chaos spell, a frozen spell, whatever the spells are called, it doesn't matter. What does that say about you? The grander scheme, what does that say about you? It says you're not aligned with your higher self. It says you're not aligned with universal laws. It says you're not aligned with 5D. You're operating on a low vibrational 3D experience. And you have no right on anybody's timeline, on anybody's way. You have no idea who that person is. You have no idea about the psychological, mental, emotional, spiritual background. You have no idea about the blueprint of that person. You have no idea about the mess that they're in psychologically. You have no idea about the emotional mess that they're in psychologically. That's why it's a low vibrational experience. And anybody doing spell work, I challenge you, and you can come online anytime you want and you can talk spells with me. I would love to give you an absolute free lesson on spells and why it's low vibrational. Spell work in a highly alchemic experience, when you are working specifically with a client on healing, you are not interfering with anybody else's life. That is the only reason and how that spells and energy should be used. It's a very low vibrational way that people don't want to understand who they are as a soul. They don't want to do the healing. They just want to manifest a quick pill. That's how people see spell work. It's like a quick pill. I want them to come running back to me, come hither spell, do a love spell, do a binding spell. Put it on a piece of paper and actually say it out loud. How does that make you see and feel? And how are you as an evolved soul when you say, I do cock blocking spells? What does that say to you? What does that say about you? What does that say about the people that are coming to you? If I was an aligned person, anybody that would come to me, because nobody has, then thank God, because obviously my energy speaks for itself. Anybody that would come to me and say, do you do a cock blocking spell? I'm absolutely highly evolved. I would never interfere with anybody else's life. Allow everybody to have the experiences they want, stay out of their life and get healed. That's what an evolved being would say. I don't want your $150 to do your cock blocking spell. I would never interfere with somebody's life. I tell people as it is, and I'm going to call it out. Anybody that does spells is very low vibrational, unless you're using it for healing and you've had the guidance from your higher self. If you are aligned with your higher self would never, ever say, interfere with somebody else's life. Your higher self would never, ever ask you to take money for spell work. Ever. Whether you're a 33-degree fucking Mason or whether you're a witch warlock from the coven of the Celtics, it doesn't matter. We are transcending into 5D. Everybody has to lose the ego. Because it's harmful, you're interfering, and your whole lot of karma is creating behind you. And you're going to have to face it, and you will. Whether that means your business being banished, whether that means your portfolio of energy and your clients being cut off and closed off, because your higher self will. God will say enough is enough. We've told everybody to stop with the black magic. You don't have the right. Nobody has the right to practice black magic. Practice it on yourself. Practice it if you're in the woods and you're not affecting anybody. If you have children in the house, you are affecting those children. The black energy and the conjuring goes into the walls. You're affecting their environment. And most people that do black magic don't care about who they affect. Therefore, thus then, again, they're lower vibrational. They don't care. They're not aligned. Again, draw it out. Draw it out. If you're aligned, you wouldn't be doing it. If you're aligned, you wouldn't even offer it as a thing. No, I would never offer spell work. I teach people how to use their soul energy to alchemize their own darkness, to alchemize their own energies of density, to rework their belief systems. I have them work as a soul-infused being with source creator, period. No spells are needed. You're not going to gain a whole bunch of karma, you're not going to lose a whole bunch of money, and you're not going to sound really needy. Anybody that offers spells like that are needy, and they're corrupt. They're not aligned witches. Aligned witches only do spell work. They work with herbs, they work with nature, they work to heal people. They don't, I know witches that do great magic and they work to heal people. That's their intention. Their intention with their magic is to heal people. I know white witches. I'm a white witch. I know how to use energy. I know how to work with spirit. I know how to work with herbs. And I ask my spirit, what herb do you want me to use now? What is, I ask for that guidance. I don't willy-nilly say, oh, I'm going to do a cock block in someone because I want them to come back to me. That is so much wounding. And it sounds really, really horrible. You got to go in and heal, sweethearts. You got to go in and heal. We're coming out of the kindergarten zone here. You got to really look at what's going on in the collective and veer away and really know the vibrational alignment of where everything is being stated and said from. Higher self is aligned purely directly with universal laws. Anything that is not within that universal alignment, you absolutely know they are not aligned. Why pay money? Why lose money? Why seem really needy? Why look really needy? Why not face your wounding and just heal? Which has been this message for 6 years. $50,000 was spent to try and off me. When I told people 8 years ago who I was, I have a great destiny here and I'm going to keep moving. You don't have the right to write me out of my own destiny because you want to believe in sacrifices. You will self-implode, you will write yourself out of this reality, and God is showing all that truth. Didn't have to be this way. There didn't have to be losses. There didn't have to be any of the mess that now all of the innocent people have to pick up the pieces of. Because I'm sure there's pieces I'm going to have to pick up of the mess that has been left behind. And people still trying to pocket watch me and still trying to wonder when source is going to bless me so they can come in and take some more. Do you see the mentality? There is a lot of mental illness and mental instability that has been going on from the places that I came from. They were meant to take heed and learn and be a part of those great soul lessons. And they chose to continually do what they were doing. That's okay. That's the shadow side. God has got it all under control. But they're all manifesting themselves ego deaths, and they're manifesting all what they need to look at themselves. And again, when you sound it out and you actually talk with people, why would that kind of be conversations you want to be involved with? Again, aligning yourself with higher vibrational people. Why would you want to be around people where all they're doing is talking about interfering with people? You know absolutely that it's nothing but a karmic mess, and you will never get out of it. Unless you step out of that karmic mess and start making things right. You have to make right with your soul. Why? Because you're going to be back, and every person that you fuck on the way, just because your ego wants something, everything that you do to fuck somebody over, you are absolutely going to get it back. And nobody that is taken from me is ever going to get an ounce from me. Why would I give more? Why would I allow people back in my life when all they've done is try to kill me and take from me and steal from me? And doppelganger me, and whatever other word you want to put on, and cockblock me, and poverty me, and put me in a jar spell. I mean, the list goes on as long as my arm. Why would any of these people be invited back? They're not. God said no. They're blocked, towered. God's giving them spell work now. You want to do spell work? Okay, here you go. Here's a tower spell. right? That's how ignorant and ridiculous. If you just talk it out, 5D betting, they're just going to keep doing their corrupt and criminal activities because they want to remain elite. Your attitudes, and those are your experiences, you will absolutely manifest ego deaths. I'm calling it right now because you're not the new equation. Be egoic all you want. Be selfish and greedy and envious and ignorant and misogynistic all you want. You're going to manifest an ego death. And that's just me speaking what the truth is. That's just an ego truth, right? Because the ego is not the driver anymore. The ego will not take you into 5D. You're here for the soul's ascension. You're here for your soul's evolution. You've just forgotten it. As we said earlier, you are going to be it will manifest however it needs to. I'm just speaking what is the truth. And people don't dare a woman speak truth. How dare a woman speak ancient wisdoms? How dare a woman do this and how dare a woman do, well, who the fuck are you? No, we are equal in all collectives. We're equal to be here on this planet. Go heal. You have a lot of wounding inside of you and you don't know and you're misguided. Go heal. So again, universal truths are, it's just going to come and face you. $33 US. The links are below. Just send a payment to PayPal. We thank you. We love you so very much. Go out and allow yourself to create new ideologies, new imprints for divine feminine. What is natural? New divine feminine imprint. What is the new divine masculine imprint? Feminine. What is natural? New divine feminine imprint. What is the new divine masculine imprint? Allow yourself to be healed. Allow yourself to be healed. Allow yourself to be honoring and celebrate yourself. No to any and all aspects that are not aligned with universal laws. Be it spell work, be it blackmail, be it any corrupt activity. Celebrate yourself for saying no more corruption. Celebrate it. It's not okay for our community. It's not okay for our family. It's not okay for our planet. We're moving beyond corruption. Celebrate that. We are moving beyond corruption. We are one. We are moving beyond discriminating against everybody but the top 5%. We're beyond that. No, our collective has elders, our collective has children, our collective has nature, our collective has animals. Everybody is included in this collective. Why? Because we're higher vibrational leaders and we choose to ascend in a multiverse way. Everybody's included. Keep people out. We're not going to discriminate anymore. We're divine beings of light, and so be it. Dear lighted ones, we love you so very much. Be the leader of your own life. You and God is all you need. We love you, dear lighted ones. Mother, Father, God love you. And so do all of the universal teams. Call on them at any point in time for healing. God loves you. You're full. You're robust. You're a natural beauty of God. And go be awesome and go be amazing. We love you.